Finding zeros of a polynomial. Well, for one thing, that means set it equal to 0 and then solve. The zeros are also sometimes called roots. Those are interchangeable, the zeros or the roots. So set it equal to 0 and then solve. So if I set it equal to 0 and then I could use the quadratic formula, and because it has an x squared, that means that it has two solutions. And supposedly, these are the two solutions I'm going to get. So just as a quick reminder, quadratic formula goes negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So the a is a -1. The b is a 4, and the c is a -5. So we get x equals negative b, so that's -4, plus or minus the square root, and then 4 gets squared, minus 4 times the a, which is -1, the c, which is -5, and then it's all divided by 2 times a. Okay, then I need to simplify what's inside the square root. So inside the square root, there's 4 squared, so that's 16. And then it's got 3 negatives in a row, which makes it negative. And then 4 times 1 times 5 is 20. So that means it's going to be the square root of -4. So we've got -4 plus or minus the square root of -4, all divided by -2. And the next thing to simplify is this square root. Well, the square root of 4 is 2, and because you're taking the square root of a negative, that produces an imaginary number, so that's going to be 2i. So we've got -4 plus or minus 2i divided by -2. You could rewrite this in standard form, which would be -4 gets divided by -2 plus or minus a 2i gets divided by -2. And then we could even simplify. So -4 divided by -2 is 2. And then there's going to be 2 divided by 2 is just going to leave the I. And then this negative technically changes the positive to a negative and the negative to a positive, which still means you have one of each, one positive and one negative. So the only solutions we get are 2 plus or minus I. And in the directions I said, the answers you should get are 2 plus or minus I. So that worked. Also, find any x-intercepts. Well, because it's x squared, that means it only has two solutions, and the two solutions we found are actually not real numbers. So that means that if I graph this function, it's not going to touch the x-axis. So it needs to look like one of these and not touch the x-axis. And then just real quickly, graph that and make sure that it looks like that. So then go to the graphing calculator, clear out this old problem, and this one is -x squared plus 4x minus 5. And then it almost hit the x-axis, but if you look a little closer, you'll see that is not hitting the x-axis, so there are no x-intercepts. And so there are no x-intercepts. And this one is finished.